When AI can write the code better than a human can, it makes the cost of software production cheaper. That's what we're finding, right? We actually have fewer engineers today probably than we did a year ago.
Now, tell us some mind-blowing stats from your company, if possible.
Oh, sure.
Something you can reveal.
Last month, we consumed like 30 billion tokens.
Oh my.
Claude Code and Codex
Okay.
are doing 90% of our code.
Where does it take AIvideo.com? What are your plans for the next 1 to 2 years?
So
today I have the privilege of interviewing the CEO of one of the coolest startups in San Francisco called AIvideo.com. Fun fact, I already met with Justin in summer 2025 when we were doing an AI TV show and he flew me over here. That was fun, right?
good to see you again.
Even though it didn't work out, I'm glad I was here because that's how this podcast is also possible. I have multiple questions prepared for today. Tell people who you are and what do you do?
My name's Justin Harvey. I'm the founder and CEO of AIvideo.com, and we are the leading all-in-one AI video production platform. What else do you want to know?
That's about good for an intro. Now let's probably start with the questions. What it's like being the CEO of a successful AI startup in this age.
I don't know how I feel about that word successful.
Well, you're making a lot of
I think
images, videos, revenues.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're at about 4 million a year in revenue, and we launched maybe 20 months ago. So I think like if you had asked me a few years ago, I would have said that's very successful. But I think that's one of the things about living here is it never feels that way because there's always someone that's growing faster. There's always someone that's bigger. And it's a strong motivator, but it also is very psychologically taxing because you never feel like you're doing enough.
I feel you. But still, like, if you're doing 8 figures in revenue, you're already there, right? You're made your mark and...
We're getting there.
You're getting there.
Yeah, a day at a time.
Okay, let's go to the second question. Now, when did you actually get the idea for the domain AIvideo.com? Let's go back. How long it took to acquire it? So 2 questions at once.
So I think to answer that question, I need to go like all the way back.
Yeah.
So I think like the way that I would explain my origin story of the company is in college, I had a video production company. And we did real estate tours. Mm-hmm. So we were the first legally licensed drone operators to do aerial footage in New England. And so that was like how we got into it. We were doing footage from like major brokerages like Sotheby's and Heritage and a lot of like international real estate brokerages. And at that time, I had this like crazy stroke of luck, which is I walked into a class one day called Philosophy of Computers. Mm-hmm. I joined because it was a philosophy class. I wasn't doing anything with computers yet at this time. I was probably about 20 years old. And they put a slide up on the screen for about 30 seconds. And it said, in this exact spot in 1956, the word artificial intelligence was invented. Mm. And 30 seconds later, it goes off the screen, right? Because this was 2014 and no one took this idea seriously. Yeah. But for whatever reason, I was a weird guy. I liked weird ideas and it just like grabbed me. And so I basically started buying all the books that I could find about it. I bought, specifically, I bought Superintelligence by Nick Bostrom, and that's what like really convinced me to get bigger into it. I started reading Ray Kurzweil, and I basically petitioned my school to say like, I know you guys don't have an AI major, but can I combine philosophy and computer science and do something like an AI major? And they said yes. They're like it's a small school. They're very flexible.
So you were in AI even way before ChatGPT.
Way before. There wasn't AI really. Like really, you had. You started to have a moment in 2012, which was AlexNet, which was when they started to do the famous examples. They could detect cats in a photo. Yeah. This was like the first sign that any kind of deep learning, like any amount of scaling up data and compute was going to get you more intelligent models. But it was so far off from anything that we're talking about today. And that's why like, if I said I mixed philosophy and computer science. Mm-hmm. In my education, the people who took this seriously was the philosophy teachers. Because it was a very interesting philosophical question. Mm-hmm. It was not yet an interesting engineering question for most people.
Yeah.
So that's like the origin, right? And then in spring of 2022, DALL-E 2 came out. And that was like kind of my moment to get really deeper into AI. After college, I had done like augmented reality and computer vision and things that were like sort of AI, because that's all there was really. But then when I saw DALL-E 2, I was like, okay, something's happening here. And basically, I stopped working so much on the company that I was working on before. And I just started waking up every morning and building prototypes, like just like by myself, just writing Python code the old-fashioned way, and just like seeing what was possible. And in that year, I teamed up with Orestes, who was basically the most talented engineer I knew from Dartmouth. I didn't go to a lot of class or do a lot of homework in college, but I got like an honors award in one class, which was this class I did with Orestes, which was like called AI Applications. And so we knew that we like worked well together. And we started building a bunch of prototypes. We raised pre-seed. We just had this idea that we were going to do generally something interesting in AI. The early experiments didn't work, really. And that was very frustrating. I would say like we were in despair, right? Because Paul Graham had given us this money and all these people had bet on us. And we're just like wasting our time, right? We did like a news email product. We did like a TikTok style app. We just did all this stuff. It didn't work. It was terribly painful to go through that process with investors like waiting on us and having to write these updates every month. And man, that was a very dark time.
So this was before AI video.
Before AI
video.
Born. So this is the birth. This is where AI video comes about, which is late night. Basically, before we had raised money. The experiment I was doing when I first connected with Orestes was posting automated news videos to Twitter. And when Orestes and I started working together and we got into Y Combinator, we were like, that's a really dumb idea. We're going to do something else that can actually be like a real business. But I was just always very curious about this. And so I just kept chipping away a little bit at it on the side. 2 hours a week, I was just like working on this video agent. And basically, when we were like in the depth of despair one night, like literally it was like 2 a.m, I was just like, I wonder who owns AIvideo.com. And this was a very weird question to ask because there was no video models. They didn't exist yet.
And when was this actually?
This was like December of 2023.
Okay.
So you had the only model that was publicly known was Runway Gen 2, which was not useful at all for content creators. And was only available through the Runway product, and no one knew what Runway was. But it was clear that something maybe was going to happen here. The same thing that happened with images and text, where adding data and adding compute led to better performance, seemed to me like was going to happen here as well. So I typed in AIvideo.com, and I see, lo and behold, a website that has nothing to do with AI. It's called Artist Interactive AI. And they have one business model, which is they sold courses teaching people how to draw naked portraits. This was the entire business. It was a 70-year-old woman, and it was a one-person business, and she had a video lecture series on how to do nude portraiture.
So nothing to do with AI.
Nothing to do with AI. And so, I've always just like, I think for me, in my whole life, the most exciting thing for me is like finding that little secret, that little opportunity that's going to lead to something. And definitely like something went off in my brain. Is like, okay, I don't know when AI video is going to be possible. I don't know what the product's going to look like, but I don't think she should own this domain. That was my thought. She should not own this domain. And so I started to get a hold of her, and it took a long time. I called and emailed probably 20 times. I eventually had to like leave messages on her landline at home because she didn't have a cell phone.
Oh my God.
Eventually I get a hold of her. Turns out she was born in this neighborhood. So this is a crazy stroke of luck. Like of all the people 8 billion people in the world that could have owned that domain, it turns out that she was born in Montclair, which is my neighborhood, and she lived in Berkeley, which is about 15 minutes over. And so we got to know each other, and she said, hey, people have been like emailing me about this in the last 2 months. Like, why? Because with ChatGPT, some people had started to get this idea that maybe the same thing would happen with video. And I said, look, this is why. There's this thing called ChatGPT. People are anticipating that maybe there will be a moment for video. I don't know when it will happen. I don't know whether it will be a big deal or not, but I can wire you $5,000 today for the domain. And she said yes, and the rest is history. And we're basically like, I think it's a funny story because we built a $4 million a year business basically off a URL, right? And I think because that was our origin story, it led us to do things very differently in many different ways, which we can get into like throughout the course of the interview.
Yeah, and so overall, it took like a few months to get a hold over and get the domain.
Yeah, maybe like a few weeks.
A few weeks. Okay,
yeah,
that's not bad.
not bad.
Okay, now what do you see as your best marketing moves that got you here? Because you sponsored that Instagram account.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the name of it, so people can check it out.
AIvideo.com spelled out.
Okay, and the account that gets like bazillion views a month that you collab with.
Realistic AI Vid is probably our best collaboration right now.
That one that I meant, yeah. Even like I can't compete with my 50 million views a month. On my accounts.
No, he's getting 1 billion views a month.
Yeah, and I get that on all socials and pages, and
he doesn't even post anywhere except for Instagram.
And this is just Instagram.
Yeah,
bazillion views. So, what's the content that blew up the most, and what's the best marketing moves? Of course, besides this, you can. Like say more about that.
I think that for us, I think the key thing to understand if you want to get to this scale, again, like I feel uncomfortable saying that because we're not even that big yet. Like we're still working on it, right? Yeah. But even to get to this point, you're going to need to have multiple strategies because what works to get you 100 customers, to get to 1,000, it's different each time, right? So as you get to each level of scale, you really need to like be reevaluating what channels you're using. So at the beginning for us, I think actually maybe people are kind of doing this now, but they weren't then, which is we ran Google Ads on day one. I think there's a talk that like Sam Altman gave like to Stanford like 10 years ago, and he's talking about like the different marketing channels and ranking them. And, the clear advice of the startup community, if you want to make a really big business, is do not start with paid ads, right? You're just like going to be behind, and you're not getting like the organic traction that you need, and it's like more of a transactional relationship with your customers. You want to start with your friends, people in your network. But the insight that we had was, if you're making an AI product, it can be anything, right? ChatGPT can do everything, right? AI video can make any type of video, right? So our thought was, let's just start running ads and let's see what people try to make. Then we'll make that work. So like at the beginning, our product did almost nothing, but we started to get data. And so I actually think in the world of AI, if you're starting a product that's fairly broad in the use case, I think buying paid ads on day one is actually a great strategy because the people will tell you what they want the product to do.
Interesting. So it's kind of reverse engineered approach.
Yeah, it's like backwards, right? And the reason we were able to do this was because of the domain name. So our Google ad, like, if you think about the average tech company, like they have a team and they're testing all different ad campaigns and messaging and everything. Our Google ad, you would search and it would literally just say aivideo.com. There wasn't even like body text. It just said aivideo.com and people would click on it because that domain was like so clearly communicating something that they were interested in.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of the first example of how like, because we have this domain name centric strategy, we're able to market in a way that other products weren't, which is like go straight to paid ads. People will know exactly what you're selling without having to explain it. And that was the beginning. From there, we started to work with content creators. We had a really great partnership with a guy. He has 2 accounts, Void Stomper or Shadecore. He does these like horror, like really creepy style, like AI videos. And he was like the original mega viral guy. He was doing 1 billion, 2 billion views a month.
It's insane.
Right when these models came out, all organic, all mostly on TikTok. And we did a partnership with him, and that was a big step for us because we started to get more feedback on the product. And that's when we kind of realized this next level, which is like the affiliates will help us promote the product, but they're also going to help us build the product because the affiliates in this case are also expert users because they're masters of content. So then we realized, okay, we get this double value. We get the product feedback and the distribution. We decided to focus more on it because of that. So we really went hard on our relationship with him. I was getting 3 or 4 times a week on a TikTok live. We would just talk through the product together, learned a bunch about how to do that. And then we were like, okay, this is kind of like the way things should go. Right then we probably were like at 100K a year run rate. And basically, to get to that next level, we scaled that to other creators. So we worked with maybe like 30 or 40 different creators. We did these like affiliate campaigns, sponsored posts, all that stuff. We were trying to do like 1 or 2 posts a day, basically.
Yeah.
And that took us to about 1 million. And then essentially what happened is like the space became very competitive. Because early on, it was just us. Or it was us, like there was Runway and there was a couple products. All of a sudden, 6 months later, there's like 200 products.
Yeah.
And so what happened is all the money flooded into that, into the sponsored stuff. And so everyone's like jacking up their rates. And the guy that used to cost us $300 for a post is now charging us $5,000 for a post. And it started to feel like a game that we couldn't win because we never wanted to be playing like on even footing with everyone else. We needed to be doing something different. So that got us to like 1 million, and then we kind of plateaued again because we were getting less and less content for the same budget. And then from there, we really figured out how to master meta ads. And I would give this, there's exceptions. There's someone out here watching that's like, my product is the most viral organic product, and I'm not going to listen to any of this marketing BS, right? The reality is most products, if you want to get to this level, you're going to have to put muscle behind it. Yeah. And when you get to a certain point, nothing can scale the way that paid ads can scale. And
that's what I heard too, yeah.
Yeah, so we just started taking basically all this content from the affiliates and repackaging it into meta ads. And so basically the affiliates were still very important because they were doing the creative and they were figuring out the messaging and the visuals. But then to distribute it, we started to rely more and more on paid ads until the point we got like really sophisticated with it. We were doing like 3-4 new paid ads every single day for weeks and weeks in a row. I think we got up to the point where we spent maybe like $600,000 in a month on meta ads in December.
Wow.
And yeah, that's the story. It was like, AdWords, then one creator sponsorship, then a bunch of creator sponsorships, and then putting really sophisticated meta paid campaign on top of that was kind of 0 to 4 million.
Yeah, so basically all the ways lead back to creators.
It all leads back to the creators. Even if you want to run a bunch of ad, you need to have the core of it needs to be something beautiful or something interesting, and you need the creativity.
Yeah, totally agree. How about SEO, by the way?
The best time to start doing SEO is 10 years ago, and the second best time is today. But we have never done it. I think it was a mistake probably to skip SEO because with our domain, we probably could have ranked very high very early, and we probably could have gotten a lot of traffic from that. But we were late to it, and once we were late, I just have this general philosophy that you should be able to get to 10 million a year with one channel. And for us, that channel was short form video with different ways of distributing it. And so just out of principle, we were like, we're not going to split our energy onto anything else.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
So you can do it without SEO, as you can see as well.
Yeah, but I'm jealous of people that get good SEO.
Yeah,
because
me too.
Yeah.
It's getting harder even in these AI days.
Yeah.
As you have the AEO as well.
Yes, and that I should probably also be investing in. It's just like there's a lot of things that can work, right? It's just like you got to master something. For us, that's short. And the thing with short form video is it's feeding back into the product because we're using our product to make the short form video. So it has this feedback loop where that other stuff is just marketing. Whereas the video marketing is also design and product development and all these other things that are very important.
Yeah, that's good. Now, tell us some mind-blowing stats from your company, if possible.
Oh, sure.
Something you can reveal, like total signups, images, videos generated, just with your platform. Like any numbers that you can share that you're comfortable saying to people.
I should have read your questions before because I feel like I would have come up with better ones. But I have a few that come to the top of my head. So we've had somewhere around 1 million signups, which is not nothing.
Yeah.
We have like several hundred terabytes of customer footage on our servers, which I think is a cool thing. And I think over time, like all that footage is going to become a huge advantage to us because it's like, if you use Google Drive or use Dropbox, you don't switch away from that product, right? Like you're going to use it for many, many years. And I think we're becoming the same way, because if you've spent $10,000 generating AI footage, you're going to store it somewhere. Well, it's stored with us because this is the place that you made it. And so we're becoming like more and more so like a file storage thing. Yeah.
Maybe I thought about that like a few times, but not that deeply. So that's a very good point.
Yeah. Hopefully that will make us more and more defensible over time. And we have people that are spending many thousands of dollars to generate footage, and you don't want to export it and move it. That's not what people do.
Yeah,
so.
I noticed. Like, I'm one of the affiliates as well, and I checked the commissions, and last time I just saw one account got me like I think $800 commission, or they spent $800 in a month. I'm not sure.
Probably 800 commission.
But it was a lot, like for what I'm used to, $20, $30.
Yeah.
There. So suddenly like $800. So
I have,
there are big spenders.
You can ask me about that next, but we have people spending thousands of dollars a month, which is totally unprecedented for software, right? Normally, like Adobe Premiere Pro is like, I don't know, between $10 and $40 a month, depending on like who bought the license and if it's enterprise or whatever. We have people spending thousands of dollars a month. Because when you have an AI agent, when you have a traditional editing product, the amount of value you're delivering is tied one-to-one with the amount of time that the person is spending at the keyboard. When you have an AI agent, the amount of value you can deliver is totally decoupled from the amount of time they're spending on keyboard. Mm-hmm. And so there's no limit to how much value you can provide each customer. So it's like totally different business model. The other interesting stat I can give you is that last month I think we spent like we consumed like 30 billion tokens.
Oh my.
Yeah, from Anthropic. Yeah.
That's insane when you think about it. And that's just like one company. You're here, and there are so many other all kinds of companies or people using the API.
I do think we're getting up there. I don't think there's that many teams consuming 30 billion tokens a month.
I mean, but like the big picture.
Yeah, for sure.
Now even with OpenClaw, which I want to get to later. Now let's have an interesting question, because everybody feels like the boom will continue forever.
Yeah.
So do you expect this growth to continue? I don't want to draw like comparisons, but like every new technology seems boom and bust, with crypto, NFTs, all kinds of things. So will the usage of content tools continue to grow in your opinion, like it has for the past few years, or are we gonna see some slowdown?
No, I think there's two things there, which is like, will there be a bust? Definitely. At some point. That's just like the law of nature, right? The number of companies will shrink, a bunch of companies will fail, the valuations of companies will really temporarily drop. It's like what happened in .com. Yeah. But if you look at the companies, it's like in 1999 or something, and a lot of people were like, all these companies are overhyped. There's going to be a bust. And those people were right, but they were really wrong, because after the bust, those companies became by far the most valuable companies in the world. I think the same thing will happen here. There will be a cycle. There's always a cycle of investment. I think one of the interesting ideas that I've heard recently is that the boom bust cycle is a critical part of how technology develops, because without a bubble, there's no way to coordinate everyone to start making this investment. Mm-hmm. So you need the bubble, because the bubble creates the economic incentive for everyone to start building the platforms and the infrastructure and the data centers and all these things that we need. So we think of like, let's say a financial bubble, like let's say 2008 or 1929. These are things that are considered to be broadly bad for society. Yeah. But I think the bubbles and infrastructure build out actually benefit society. Even though some players will lose everything when the bust happens, overall society is benefiting because the bubble created this environment where all the investment could happen. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that there is going to be any drop. For us, we're less than 1% of the market share, right? So there's no reason, even in a bust time, we can continue to grow very significantly, I think.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Where does it take AIvideo.com? What are your plans for the next 1 to 2 years?
So when I think about the one idea driving the trajectory of my business, It's this idea that as the agent gets smarter, it eats more and more of the workflow, and we can sell at a higher and a higher price point. So there's two distinct markets in video production. There's tooling, which is like the AI tooling, but also the traditional tooling, like Adobe Premiere and CapCut and all these products. And this is something like $3 to $4 billion a year in annual spend. Then there's video production services, which is like the teams and the production studios and all this stuff. And that's like 40 billion a year. This is something a lot of people don't understand, which is that the services market is 10 times larger than the tools market. And what we see happening is that the smarter the AI gets, the more and more people use our product like a service, right? So at the beginning, they were using it like a tool. They were just generating little individual clips. Now they're saying, do the whole first draft for me, or do a song, do a video for every song on my album. Or what we just released last week is now we're integrating with your other tools and services the same way OpenClaw does. So we're in your Google Drive, your Discord, your Notion, your Gmail. We're starting to orchestrate your entire business workflow. And when we can do that, like I just sold a deal on Friday, $3,200 a month to use software, right? For one person, right? Because he's doing this instead of hiring a virtual assistant. So this is the trajectory that we're this is the most important idea in our company, which is like, how can we make sure that as the model gets smarter, we're getting more and more priced like a service instead of a tool, and being more aggressive about that than any of our competitors. Because most of our competitors, even though a lot of them grew more quickly than us, they're all tools, right? Like Midjourney grew to 100 million a month or 100 million a year, like overnight, but it's for artists, right? It's really it's a tool. I think Runway is the same. I think NVIDIA is the same. I think Veed is mostly the same. We're trying to be the company that's like saying, let's just look a little bit further into the future and let's really focus on this idea, which is that it's going to be consumed as a service.
Yeah, so we're not really going for the quantity and sell as many subscriptions for $20 a month as possible, but more like the high-end users.
Yeah, and of course,
that can afford to spend more.
So I have like a chart that I shared with my investors recently, which is like, it's two charts stacked on top of each other. The first one is like the model benchmarks, like the smartest model, and the second one is our spend per customer, and they're like matching perfectly. So it's like the smarter the model gets, the more people spend. Whereas I think if you look at a product like Midjourney, people are spending the same amount now that they spent 3 years ago. And so that's the way we are really trying to be different.
That sounds smart, actually. I like so many things that you said. I feel like I learned many things, so that's awesome. Now, what about OpenClaw technology?
It's cool.
Is it something your company could adopt or adopted already?
Yeah, I have my Mac Mini over there. You saw it.
But I'm not sure if it's just for playing around or is it actually like in your company?
Well, everything I do is playing around until it works, and then it's not. I think, so we use agents in our internal processes very extensively. We spend more than $10,000 a month just for our internal agents, just for for coding and for customer support.
Can you say what agents from which company or?
It changes a lot. So I would say right now, Claude Code and Codex are doing, I don't know, 90% of our code, maybe more than 90%. Now, that's not to say you don't need good engineers. If you go look at our product, like it is, it's recently become a very beautiful product. It's very smooth and easy to use. You cannot do that with Claude Code and Codex. You need to also be having the right people involved.
Sure.
But they're not writing the code. They're giving feedback. They're giving guidance. They're sculpting the vision. So we use a lot of that. That was really the first thing that took over our company, was like the coding agents. Then about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we started going almost 100% customer support is now using Opus 4.6 as well. So actually, I think we're actually using Claude Code for that in the back end. So this was like, I think people could steal this because you're going to be a month behind us, okay? But this is one of the secrets of our business right now, which is we're using Claude Code so aggressively in like November, December, that it made us realize like, wait, why do we not have this level of agent for other use cases, right? And we realized something about Claude Code. And I think we realized something about Claude Code that Anthropic themselves does not understand, or at least is only slowly starting to understand. So Claude Code is an agent that was made for coding, right? And so a lot of the tools that Claude Code has access to, like writing bash scripts, saving files, uploading stuff, evaluating stuff, those were tools given to Claude Code to make it better at coding. What happened is that it turns out those tools are also very useful to help the model think for all different kinds of use cases. So let's say it's doing a medical task or a research task, and it needs to do something over a very long time horizon without losing track, right? It can start saving stuff for a file. It can start writing bash scripts as a structure or as a scaffold. And so what we realized is that like these are not just coding tools. These are cognitive faculties that can make Claude Code smarter than other AIs for every use case. And so what we started doing is hosting these headless Claude Code instances, which is basically Claude Code but running on a server, pinging via API. And we just started doing all kinds of stuff with it. We started doing like coding assistance in our Discord, but then we also like started automating our support. We started automating like marketing tasks. And we realized that like this kind of integrated agent, even though it was made for coding, is going to be the way that all the AIs work over time. And I think OpenClaw was like the rest of the world figuring that out into a sense, because OpenClaw is basically a fork of Claude Code, but it's used for all these other things.
Yeah.
So we felt very validated. We were like, okay, we think we're on the right track here.
And how many people are on your team, like full time?
It's like 11 or 12.
There you go. So you don't need 100 people nowadays.
I think
this is exactly the age. Yeah.
Yeah.
3 people.
And we
a
haven't
lot
even,
of AI agents.
Exactly. And we haven't even been marketing like enough. We just started that maybe like 10 days ago to really push marketing. We should be able to get to 10, 20 million a year with this 10, 11 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, where do you see AI headed overall until like 2030? Like not just content generation space, but like overall AI.
I think that my mental model for where AI is going is based off of evolutionary biology. Okay?
We're going deep.
This is an idea I don't hear other people talking about, but I think it's just the clearest explanation of what's happening. The different regions in your brain evolved at different periods of time. Right? So if you think about the prefrontal cortex, which is like what makes humans different than monkeys and certainly different from other animals, the animal kingdom, that's the part of our brain we're doing like a lot of the things that we identify being human. So like planning and math and coding and science. That part of the brain is like a baby. It's only like less than 1 million years old, maybe like a couple 100,000 years old in terms of being like really fully developed, right? And so from that perspective, evolution has had very little time to optimize the prefrontal cortex. It's very energy inefficient. It takes up too much space. This is why other animals don't have it. And so to me, it's no surprise that this is the first set of capabilities that the AI has conquered, because humans are actually not that good at it. We're like just learning how to do this stuff, right? And so everything that the prefrontal cortex can do, I think what I would expect in the next year or two AI to be superhuman at. And I think we've already seen that with coding, and we'll see it with all the other verifiable domains in the next few months. Now, if you compare that to something like visual perception, right? Let's say something simple like tracking something in your field of view, right? Like hunting a squirrel, right? Yeah. Or reading the room, right? Getting someone's vibe about whether they're trustworthy or angry or sad. These like really intuitive things. Those things are hundreds of millions or even billions of years old, right? From an evolutionary perspective, these parts of the brains are extremely optimized. And so I think what you'll see is that the computers will struggle to conquer those functionalities the same way that they did coding and math. To the same level that they did coding and math. The first example of this where I really felt like this was the case was when OpenAI launched Operator, which was like their model that you could use a computer, right? It's basically looks at your screen, controls the cursor, and controls the keyboard. And I would watch it like try to book a flight, and it would take like 6 minutes and like, I don't know, $20 of compute or something. Whereas like a human is like doing that for, less than a penny worth of energy. And so you have this massive difference, like 1,000x or 10,000x discrepancy in compute efficiency between the human and the machine. And when I look today, I see that coding and math and science have gone vertical, right? Like the progress even in the last 3 months is the craziest I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Now, if you try to book a flight, it's still bad. So that tells me that we have this discrepancy between prefrontal cortex and visual perception, and there seems to be something fundamental about it that's not going away. Sometimes in technical terms, this will be called the verifier generator gap, which is like it's easier for machines to generate a lot of things than it is to verify whether they've done a good job. In code, there's no verifier generator gap. They can make good code and they can tell if code is good. But in video, it's very easy for them to generate video and very hard for them to know if what they've made is any good. And I think that breakdown traces back to the evolutionary biology of the efficiency of the different brain structures. And because that's such a fundamental thing that's traced to our evolution, I expect that structural gap to persist even through 2030, even through AGI and all these other things. Yeah. And so when I think about like, what is the role of my customers in the world in 5 years from now? It's to be the verifiers. It's like, how can you articulate your vision? How can you explain, give taste, give preference, give guidance?
Quality overview.
Yes, because I think there's exceptions, but it doesn't feel like much progress is being made on that side of things.
Yeah, that's true. Although, when ChatGPT 10.0 will come out by 2029, maybe it's going to be so different.
Maybe, but I wouldn't expect so. I would expect that we'll need either algorithmic breakthrough or probably some kind of new, more energy efficient hardware. Because what's happening is it's not so much a matter of capability. Like operator can use a computer using visual reasoning, but it's too slow and too expensive. And when the market matures, you asked like about the bubble and the cycle and all of that. When or if there's a crash, it's going to be speed and cost, because people are going to realize like I can hire someone in the Philippines to help me for this for 10 times cheaper.
Yeah.
So AI is going to be able to do everything, but it's not going to be economically viable to do a lot of things.
Exactly, man. Yeah. Last time I tried to do something on my computer, it cost me like $30 in credits.
Yeah.
And it would literally take like 1 to 2 hours maybe, when in Philippines VA it's like $5 per hour. So
for sure.
That's so true.
Yeah, I think like one of the great quotes that I always come back to is that like you can get a perfect SAT score with a belly full of Cheerios, like just breakfast cereal is like enough, right? Whereas like for a GPT to get a perfect SAT score would be hundreds of dollars of compute, right? Yeah. It's literally thousands of 1,000x or more difference in energy efficiency. And if you look at like what are the organizing principles of nature, energy optimization is one of the most important always. It's one of the things you can't cheat, you can't escape. There's only so much energy available to us as a species, and we're going to put it in the place that's gets good return. And if something can be done 1,000 times cheaper by a Filipino assistant than it can by an operator from GPT-10, it's going to be done by the Filipino assistant. So I think people are really focused on what is going to be the capability ceiling. That's not the right question to be asked. I think you should assume that it's going to be able to do everything. The question is, what is it going to be able to do fast enough and cheap enough to be viable in the economy?
Yeah. Good point. Very good points.
Thanks.
I will leave all the links below that we mentioned, his tool, his profile, so you can check it out. Is there anything that you would like to share in the end?
Anything I would like to share? Another just like tidbit of like value that I can provide is just to think about what I just said. Think about what the implications of that are, where you should be investing your time in your business, right? Which are the things in your business that are going to continue to be valuable to invest in? And so, I think for us, it's like our product's kind of done, sort of, right? It's not really done, but like a video editor is what a video editor is, and we've seen everyone's tried different form factors, and they're kind of like people are settling and consolidating on like what the good is, what the best ones are. But like in code, when AI can write the code better than a human can, it makes the cost of software production cheaper. That's what we're finding, right? We actually have
Yes.
fewer engineers today probably than we did a year ago, and the quality of our product is much better. And our team was already very small. In marketing, it's the opposite. Because what happens is when AI is able to do, let's say, create viral videos or run your SEO or whatever, the bar just raises. Because it's a fight. Everyone's competing for this attention. And so even though AI has become so powerful for marketing and for influence and getting attention, the people have not become any less valuable. Because if you're just 1% better, that might mean your company grows 10 times as large.
Yeah.